On today's show, 2022 was one of the best calendar years in Dallas Mavericks history. What were the top 10 best moments? We'll tell you and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavs.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen each and every day, especially all throughout 2022. Remember, we are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube, or the best way you can help us grow the show. Comment anything below. What's a moment from 2022 that we forgot, you think should be in the top 10, or that you think other people will forget? Let us know in the comment section below. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com. The new year, new you, Yuletide. The one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
You know, I was going back over the weekend. I went back and looked at some of our first episodes from last year. And because I wanted to see how many episodes we did in the year.
306.
306. And one of the first titles was New Year, New Brunson. And I was like,
oh,
sucks. But just looking back through our podcast titles, like there's so much stuff that happened. That's honestly what I was doing like New Year's Eve night. It was had an old moment New Year's Eve of like, you're old when, and my wife and I are just kick back. She's drinking like some apple sangria thing. We're on the couch and we're like, and this like performers on the screen, and we're like, hey, who's that? I don't know who it is either.
Part of the problem now is there's so many artists, right? Like anyone can be it. Like there's people on TikTok that they write a song and then all of a sudden they're super famous like the next day.
But that's the thing.
And you're like, how do you keep track of all these people?
They introduced somebody as a TikTok star.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Right.
Like, we really just like TikTok stars. But
was it Jax? Was it a girl? Was it a blonde girl?
No.
Anyway, she's great.
But when looking back at all the podcast titles, it is really cool to see just what a crazy year it was for the Mavs. Amazing. And I honestly think, we were talking about before, I think this is the best calendar year for the Dallas Mavericks franchise. I think it goes up. I mean, like 2011, because the title and the parade and all that stuff like outweighs everything. But collective, pound for pound, beginning to the end, it rivals any other year in franchise history.
Explain yourself.
Sorry.
We got that drop in 2022. We got a lot of good drops in 2022.
I need a recovery beer.
I don't always tell you guys the truth.
We got that one in 2022.
True.
Oh, incredible. So we're going to go through the top 10 best moments, at least what I think. Isaac has not signed off on this list yet. He doesn't even know what this list is, and he's going to tell me where I'm wrong. You guys can tell me in the comment section below. And then we'll go through a bunch of great moments, great games, wholesome moments, funny moments, weird things. And then at the very end, we'll talk about a couple of bad moments that we had. Maybe we can come up with all of them coming up. All right, number one, the best moment of 2022 is... Game 7, the win against the Suns, the birthing of the Luka and Booker meme. It just has become part of like the culture and part of everybody's basketball discourse. That single game, honestly, I think it was the most memorable game of the entire playoffs for any teams. I think it's like that memorable of. Oh my gosh, I can't believe the number one seed that was that good with 64 wins lost like that to that Mavericks team in the way that they did to Luka after the at home. Yeah. And Luka had 27 at the half. Suns had 27 at the half total, like all that combined. You have the Luka drops Cam Johnson moment too. Remember that? That was in game 7 where he's sizing him up and then he crosses him over. And then a sneaky moment that maybe you'll forget about game 7. Remember a couple days later, the Suns released a press release that was like, we apologize for for disappointing our fans and we're going to still continue on. Like imagine losing so badly. Your team has to release a press release. and not pay fines for arguing with officials like Mark Cuban did after 2006. Like that's what the Mavs had to do in 2006. This is what the Suns had to do in 2022.
No, I mean that's one of the best moments that we've had. I mean, since covering the Mavs over the past 6 years on this pod, and that whole moment. And it's funny, you still hear like national people talk about in their pods, like it will randomly get brought up, and they're like, I still don't understand what happened. Like, and it would, yeah. I mean, I think it was also because of how much trash they talked to.
Yep.
Like if they played another team and they were just all class and business, which
the Warriors, the Warriors were like that the next round. We were like so surprised when we went there, like how much they revered the Mavs and didn't like downplay them or talk down to them or anything.
Yeah. And, according to campaign, the Suns do it the right way. And
they don't do any of that.
Yeah. But just beating them that way. And after all the, everybody talk big when they up and all that stuff from Luka, it was just, yeah, I mean, it's a moment we'll never forget.
Speaking of that, my number 2 moment, Phoenix Suns Game 6 win after Game 5. That was Game 5 was the everybody acts tough when they up, and Game 5 was the Luka special. Devin Booker falls to the ground. He's faking. He's like looking. He's like his face down on the ground. Then he gets up and he's like Luka special because he's faking an injury or whatever. And then that's when, after the Mavericks lose Game 5, Luka goes down the tunnel, says everybody act tough when they up. That was after a loss. The Mavericks come back and they dominate Game 6, and then they go win Game 7. Like that, those two stacked on top of each other make it such an incredible moment for the Mavericks that it was, like Luka said, everybody acts tough when they up, and they go and they dominate the next 2 games in just like resounding fashion.
The Kardashian Pez dispenser.
That nickname will never not make me laugh, I don't think. It's so good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so those are the top 2 moments for me, and they're connected. It's Game 6 and Game 7 against Phoenix. Just an incredible series win, the way that it came together and all that. All right, number 3 moment. This one's a little sad, but it's Brunson's 41 against Utah in Game 2. That was such an incredible moment as a Mavericks fan because it was somebody else stepping up besides Luka, and it was Brunson, that was his career high, right? Like he had not scored that many points. It was just such a wild game where just everything was going right for him. He was hitting everything. And yeah, his career high before, like in the regular season before that, was 34 his rookie year. And he only had scored 31 as a season high that season. And then he goes and scores 41 in the playoffs against the Jazz, who were supposed to have Rudy Gobert and this defense and all that stuff. It's one of the best moments because they did it without Luka, and you're like, okay, the goal that year was just to win a playoff series. It was just to win a playoff series, and they had won that game, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is real. Like they can do this, even if Luka's going to be injured.
Yeah, I went back and I was looking at like tweets and timeline stuff of the year, and I found that stretch there when Luka got hurt and the calf injury, the last game of the season.
It was a dark day.
Oh, it was so dark. And we're like, are you serious? Like now we're going to miss Luka. And they kept the ship afloat. They won some games and Luka came back, and they obviously, I mean, they sent Utah into blow it up mode, and they got new colors and rebrand and everything. Just blew up the whole franchise.
They pissed their pants and then they pissed their jerseys too. I mean, I don't know what happened to that Jazz franchise after that. But yeah, that was an incredible moment. And just like part of that was our crossovers with David Locke too. Remember he was talking like so down to Luka at the beginning, like the pre-series and everything, and down to his defense and all that. And we're like, okay, like we'll see. Like, we'll see. We were just kind of playing we weren't really attacking as much, like we weren't hitting back with him as much, and then they won that game. We're like, all right, we can hit back. We're
just rope-a-doping him here,
right? Exactly. And so,
do you have the Dinwiddie dunk later on, or
that one? So that one was in Game 3. I saved that for a moment later. It's not in the top. Okay. It's not in the top 10 for me. But if it was in Game 2, I would have included it. But yeah, that moment in that series was.
Well, I mean, arguably the best play of the whole season. But
Dinwiddie just jams on Rudy Gobert. So that's the top 3. Suns Game 6 and Game 7. Brunson's 41 in Game 2. Coming up, let's get into the rest of the top 10, and then we'll talk about some other moments that were great in the calendar year of 2022. So we'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy. It's made easy. You can go and you don't have to play against people that only play that. Like my stepfather-in-law only talks about fantasy football, like lives and breathes it, and he's really good at it. You don't have to play against him in this. Somebody that's super experienced and playing for decades. You can just play against the projected numbers, pick 2 to 6 players. If they score more or less than their prize picks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. You can go to prizepicks.com right now, see what's available. They have NBA, they have NFL, they're going to have college with the bowl games, they'll have all kinds of stuff. Download the PrizePicks app, go to prizepicks.com and sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. So if you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you put in 50, they'll give you 50 to use on PrizePicks. Don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON to sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Go get them picks. All right, Isaac, thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Go check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast after this. It was in the iTunes Top 100. It was like in the Apple Podcast Top 100 or Top 200 the other day. Oh. That podcast is it's awesome every single day if you want to check out the best things in sports. All right. The rest of the top 10s, we've given the top 3. Suns, game 6 and 7. Brunson's 42 in game 2 against the Jazz. Number 4. The Dallas Mavericks win in Game 6 against the Utah Jazz, and they win a playoff series. The season is a success, and that was just that was a great moment. It wasn't one of the top moments, even though that was the goal of the season, because it felt expected at a certain point. Like, oh, they should beat this team, right? They're good. Luka's that good. The Jazz are falling apart, and even going into that series, you felt, okay, the Mavericks, they should win this series. So it's not as high for me, but it still was a really great moment for the Mavs.
Yeah, I mean, you said it's the first one since 2011. So, yeah. And that was the bar we set all year for all season, for the whole success is win a playoff series. And, you had the Bojan miss 3 at the buzzer.
That one still gives me palpitations.
The shot just went in slow-mo in the air.
I know. All by himself on the left wing.
And it's like, you had some momentum because Luka, came back, and then you win that series, and you're like, all right, now you're playing with house money going against Phoenix. Yeah. And yeah, we know how that turned out.
A bonus on number 4, a bonus moment.
Uh-oh.
Because of this series and because of this game, we get the Theo Pinson Gobert hit Jerry West moment on Locked On Mavs. Remember when Pinson, not during our media day interviews, but he came on Locked On Mavs as a guest, and he talked about, we were like, what kind of trash talk were you talking with Rudy Gobert about? And he said, Gobert threw up a hook shot in that series, and he hit Jerry West. Somebody hit Jerry West the other day, and I was joking about it with somebody at the media. I think it was a Christmas Day Lakers game. Somebody took a wild shot and smacked Jerry. I think it was LeBron maybe, and just smacked Jerry West on the backboard. I'll never forget that.
Theo Pinson, go listen to that podcast.
Oh, that was a great one. If you're reminiscing about 2022, that's a good one. All right, number 5, the Luka 60, 21, 10 assist overtime win against the Knicks. It's just that game has never happened before. I don't know if we'll ever see it again.
You're probably not. Are you lumping in the free throw miss on this on purpose?
Yeah, I mean, all of it.
So, I mean, when I think of like the best plays of the season, obviously I'm missing some, but immediately to the top of my head is the Dinwiddie dunk in the Luka,
playoffs.
In the playoffs on Rudy, and then the Luka miss free throw that we just saw last week, and
both of them against the Knicks and the Spurs.
Yeah, that's a whole galaxy brain take of like, hey, when you suck making free throws, you just miss them on purpose and you win games.
He could just get his offensive rebound all the time, and they could get a 3 instead of 1 point. How about that?
Up next, Isaac says free throws don't matter. Just kidding, guys. But no, I mean it was so crazy because that night you didn't know how historical it was going to be.
No,
because for 3 quarters it was like, this sucks. Like, I mean, Luka was putting up a lot of points, but Grimes is going off. They didn't have Brunson and RJ. You're like, are we really about to lose to this
again? And lose to a team without their stars again?
Yeah, and obviously we know how it played out, and it was an all-time night in the AAC.
And of course, we get this.
I'm tired as hell.
You can rest later. You're young.
I need a recovery beer.
We get the I'm tired as hell, and then Jeff Skin Wade the laugh, and then I need a recovery beer. That one's always gonna remain with me. Number 5 for me is I combine them. This is kind of cheating. I combine them. Dirk's jersey retirement and the statue. I put them together. Do you think that's fair?
Honestly, it's fine. I think it should be number 2. I think it should be just because it's the greatest player in franchise history.
Yeah.
And I think any moment of any franchise, but especially when, it's a top 10 player of all time, top 15 player of all time. And just what obviously we know everything he done for Dallas and Mavs. I think both of those happen in the same calendar year. That's why when I look at this year and you start looking at everything and it's like, you start looking at calendar years in franchise history and you're like, all right, what has to happen in a calendar year for it to be in the conversation? They have to at least have a long playoff run.
Yep.
Because you got to at least have that. And you got to have some iconic moments. But then I think what tips this over some of the other stuff is it's the I don't even know, the immortalizing of Dirk Nowitzki this year, of the jersey and the rafters. And that whole night was just crazy. I mean, from the merch to the celebration to all the stuff. And all the stuff on the concourse, and then obviously the statue. There's only so many statues in the league. So I think you look at this whole year together with the deep playoff run, and we'll talk about some Luka stuff, and then all the Dirk stuff. I think it's so hard to beat this year. But I would have this higher up the list just because this ain't ever happening.
I had it out of the top 5. You've seen my background if you guys have watched. I have Dirk poster. I got Dirk stuff everywhere. He's my favorite athlete of all time. I kind of already feel like he was immortalized. It's just like a representation of that to me. Yeah. So maybe I marked it down a little bit, because when you can contextualize history when it's happening in front of you, like the Game 7 or like Brunson's game or that Luka insane game against the Knicks. I don't know. I feel like those are better moments to me because they're happening than the reminiscing on a player we already knew was great, was one of the all-time greats. Maybe that's just how I perceive those moments. Love those moments. I've gone back and looked at the statue every time I walk by there ever since. They're very special moments to me. It was very special to be able to be at the jersey retirement and see all this, all the stars were there, and all the stuff that they did for Dirk. It was really well done. Jersey retirement.
Heck of a distraction.
And the statue reveal was the statue's great. Like Zach Lowe, every time he mentions the Mavericks, he mentions Dirk's statue and how good it looks on his podcast. So it's going around the NBA. But yeah, let me know in the comment section. Should I have it higher? I have it at 6. I have those other 5 moments ahead of it. Number 7. This one was, I thought, the controversial one.
Uh-oh.
The Kristaps Porzingis for Dinwiddie and Bertans trade.
Yeah.
This is a sneaky one because if this trade doesn't happen, they don't do all that stuff in the playoffs. It's not the same, right? Like, you were one of the few people, Isaac Harris, that were on that day when that happened. We did an emergency pod and you sat down and said their ceiling is higher because of this move. And that completely played out in the whole playoff run and the rest of the season and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, because they brought in the third ball handler and they got Dinwiddie, and how much fun was Dinwiddie right after that? The buzzer beaters against Boston and Brooklyn, and he played a huge part in the playoffs, and we saw what this offense looked like. There was a lot of signs pointing to the end of that marriage.
Just Porzingis is like what he did in the playoffs the year before. You're like, okay,
yeah, this isn't gonna work. I think KP's talked about it a few times too since he's been in Washington, and that, I think at some point it was expected probably in the offseason, but it just happened in the season.
Yeah.
And it allowed them to really shift who they are. And it's like, all right, now we don't have to try to force feed it in the post. We don't have to force these two different offensives kind of clashing together. Now we can embrace this one style and have 3 ball handlers. And that's why I was high on it. And that's why I'm still high on it. I wish they had it now. Yeah, I think it was a big moment. It was definitely one of the most surprising moments because I remember where I was at, when that trade went through. It happened at the buzzer of the deadline.
Yeah.
And I remember it popping across my phone. I was like, holy crap.
They did it. They actually went and did it.
Yeah, because like we just said, I expected it to happen at some point. I just thought it was going to be in the offseason. And they did it right before the deadline. I was like, wow. So it's cool.
Coming up, the final 3 moments, one of them you do not expect. You do not expect this moment. I guarantee it. No one's guessing this. Coming up, we'll talk about that. But before we do, let me tell you about Built Bar. I ate a Built Bar today. I ate this raspberry Built Bar today. They're incredible. This raspberry Built Bar, zero guilt. That's what it says on the outside. I had zero guilt when I ate it earlier. 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, 4 grams of sugar in a bar covered in 100% chocolate that tastes good. I decided to eat this and decided to buy this because they taste good and I like them. So go check out Built Bar. It's a protein bar. It tastes like a candy bar. They have unbelievable flavors like churro. I love the churro bar. Peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, and all that. And you can go check it out. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 17 grams of protein in a lot of these bars. So you don't need to wait to get a box right now. Order yours at Built Bars at Built.com, or you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club now. Wow. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up 4 boxes of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. Man, you have to go to Walmart or Sam's Club. Go check it out. And go check them out today. Built.com or go to Walmart.
Yeah, you can get like 75 at Sam's Club.
All right, Isaac Harris, let's finish out the top 10 list, and then let's reminisce about just some fun, wholesome, all kinds of funny moments from the rest of the year. My number 8 moment, the Spencer Dinwiddie game winners against Brooklyn and Boston. They were like in the same week, and he hits both of them. It's after the trade. You're still kind of like, there's some believers in the trade. There's some people that don't necessarily believe in the trade. You're like, oh, we could have had Porzingis at his best. Dinwiddie hits those 2 game winners, and you're like, all right, we're cooking with gas.
Yeah. Some tough receipts around that trade. But no, it was just a lot of fun. He hit those. He's a clutch bucket getter, and him hitting those big shots, the one against Boston, or is it Brooklyn? One of those two, Luka had the ball and just, dished it off to him. It's like he had the trust in him already. He's like, I'm going to trust him to make the shot. And he did. And it was like the welcome to Dallas moment for Dinwiddie.
The Brooklyn one was the one where he's on the court and all the pictures are like Mark Cuban grabbing onto him as he's trying to walk to the locker room. And I
think that was one Nico was at too.
Yes. Yeah. Where they're both there.
Thanked him for trading for him or something.
Oh, yeah. He walked over. Yeah. He walked over to him. Yeah. That was a great moment. My number 9 moment, no one will guess. I think that this moment is important because it was like, oh, wow, we're here. Like the Mavericks are here. They're in the national stage here. Hosting the Western Conference Finals in Dallas, TNT is there, and Charles Barkley rides out on a horse in front of the AC. Just that moment, because there are so many Mavs fans there. It was like this moment where everybody's feeling so good about the franchise and feeling good about the Suns win, and like, hey, we're playing with house money because nobody even expected us to be there. And then Charles Barkley picks the Mavs and curses them. But that moment where he walks out on a horse, I feel like it was just an incredible moment.
Yeah, you can't look past that series because as much as anybody wants to call it a fluke or whatever it is, they still made it to a conference finals. And I think there's a smart way to look at it. I don't think you can step back and say, you know what, we can chill because we made it to conference finals.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing that. But I think it's also something to be like grateful for too. It was a cool moment for us professionally because we went to San Francisco, went to the Bay and covered those 2 games there. And it's a lot of fun for us. And, anyway, it's going to make a podcast joke.
Wow, that's an inside joke literally just for you and me. That's unfair, Isaac.
I know. That's why I had to stop. But no, it was just, obviously Warriors beat them and they looked like, the experienced vet team. But I think it's something that we're going to look back on, and they learned what it took, to get to a conference finals. They learned how long that road is. And I think it's something that even though they lost, it will help them in the long run.
My number 10 moment, this is a sneaky one that I really hadn't thought about until you mentioned it before we were talking.
Guess?
Go ahead.
Luka AI.
I totally forgot about that.
Oh, sorry.
The Luka AI. My number 1 moment, my number 10 moment is Luka Doncic, though. It's the Luka 1. The Luka 1 comes out, Luka's shoe with Jordan Brand, the first signature shoe for any Dallas Mavericks player.
Yeah, I think this is a huge deal. There's only so many signature shoes really in the NBA,
in history.
Yeah, and with any brand, Dirk never had a signature shoe. He wore a lot of the hyper dunks, and we've talked about the difference between
that's what he's got on his statue is the hyper dunks.
Yeah, it looks so good too. But just the whole hype around that, Luka, a Dallas Maverick, dropping a signature shoe for Jordan Brand. Yeah. It's not even some like dumb brand like Puma, and
Hey, real stars are on Puma, Isaac.
Kyle Kuzma. But it's just and we're seeing all the hype around it for Mavs fans, for people around the world, and it's such a good shoe too. It's actually comfortable.
You got
looks
show
good.
one. You got two back there, right? Or just the one?
Yeah, I got some. I just ordered another pair the other day. But anyway, yeah, it's an overlooked, I think, moment of the year
for sure. It's my number 10 moment. Did I miss any? Did I miss any top 10 moments? You think?
I think
here's a couple of games I have. You can let me know if any of them belong in there.
I mean, like you mentioned the Luka 60 point triple double. If you could lump a stretch of games together,
can his whole December be in there, or this last 5 games?
Yeah, the stretch of games in December, or the past like 2 weeks or a week or whatever, is, I mean, I know it's at the end of the year, but man, it's been special. Like
Luka dropped 50 in 3 out of 5 games. Like that has never happened. Guess how many 50-point games Dwayne Wade has had in his whole career?
Oh gosh, I don't even know.
3. Luka did it in a week.
He probably complaining about it.
Here's a couple of games. Let me know if they belong in there at all. There's the moment against the Lakers on TNT where Luka isos on LeBron for like 4 straight possessions, just like takes on the challenge, and he Mavs end up winning that game with Luka just beating LeBron. And then Luka had a huge putback and a huge putback dunk on Dwight Howard in that game too. It was just like an incredible national stage moment. Luka also
dunk on Drew Holiday too.
Yeah, that's a good one. Luka had 51 against the Clippers back in February. That was his first 50-point game. Was in 2021, but it was in February. The 50-point game against the Rockets, December 23rd. That was another 50-point game. And then also, he had a really big game that doesn't look that big anymore against the Pelicans back in February. 49, 15, and 8 was his stat line, which we used to think was a big game. Now it's not. Random one. Or you have another Luka one?
No.
Random game was Luka was out against the Kings, and Dorian Finney-Smith hit the game winner at home. That was a really big moment.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, Luka, another reason why, and I think this plays a little bit into it for Mavs fans in a calendar year, even though it's kind of cheating, we basically got Luka basketball all year. I think Eurobasket has to be included a little bit. Just the fact that
pseudo Mavs. We covered it on Locked On Mavs.
We covered it like Mavs games, but like we got to watch our star player play basketball almost the whole calendar year and play on a big stage, and it was a lot of fun. And it was cool seeing some of you guys in Slovenia just embrace us as we just hopped on and, tried to sing the national anthem and all that song. And, but I think that was a fun stretch. And then the chant, "Me Slovenci."
Yeah, that's incredible, like stretch or moment. The Luka cowboy boots and Christmas Day win, where he fakes out Wenyen Gabriel as well. Like that has to be one where the Mavericks get a home Christmas Day game against the Lakers. Like imagine that in past years.
Yeah, the Dude Perfect video was a lot of fun.
So good. Yeah, I forgot to mention that the other day.
But no, I think an underrated one, it's not Luka focused, is, and I wouldn't say it's in the top 10, but like draft night was kind of fun just because the Christian Wood trade became official, and they traded back in to get Jaden Hardy. I remember being there in the draft room or in the Mavs draft room thingy until 2 a.m. and Nico walking out with a plate of strawberries, like looking like a legit server, like walking around to us, sitting there handing us strawberries.
As an apology.
Yeah,
that's the night where we got this.
Explain yourself. Sorry.
Yeah, it is.
It's like one of my favorite drops.
Because I just started off and I butchered a question at 2 a.m. I was like, I'm sorry. That's a bad question.
Yeah, that was a great one.
But it was just fun because it was a swing trade, and it was like, oh, okay, like this, that the trade became official, and then it was kind of fun for everybody to like hop on board the Hardy party train and start looking at you.
Let's go party.
I don't feel good enough to party right now. For Jaden Hardy to, be a Maverick stuff. So that was kind of fun night.
Yeah, that was a really fun night. Other good moments of the year. Luka made his 3rd first-team All-NBA. That's a great one, just like how young he is.
All-Star Weekend.
NBA All-Star Weekend was a great one. NBA TV comes to Mavs practice and training camp. That was like a really good like Mavs fan type moment where you got to see a lot of inside of training camp and remember that. The Jaden Hardy 28-point game in Summer League. It felt like it was one of those collective like
Hardy, let's go party.
That was an incredible moment. Couple of more wholesome moments. We got that picture of Dirk and Luka where they're standing after the playoff game and they're just like looking at each other like Luka is looking up at Dirk like he's just like, are you proud of me, Dad? You know, like just that incredible moment. Reggie Bullock won the Social Justice Award for the NBA for his work with the
that's cool.
LGBTQ plus community in Dallas, which is an incredible moment for the Mavs. This is like another wholesome moment. The Dinwiddie rant about Dwight Powell. Like that was a really great moment. It was this past season, but he comes up, you know, Dwight had a really good game and he had just got put back in the starting lineup and Dinwiddie's like, all right, I got a rant. And he goes on this whole like 2-3 minute rant about how good Dwight Powell is with the rest of the team and all that.
I'll throw in there the Retroplex stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
I think the Mavs killed it with the whole marketing, branding, the jerseys, the court.
The hype video.
Yeah, I think this is my favorite City Edition jerseys that they've ever had. I think that's awesome.
Not many contenders for you on that one.
I think I don't know where this would fall, but like the stretch of like the COVID rosters of it was just a wild time from like Charlie Brown to Marquise Chris to Isaiah Thomas. It was like no name guys to like these older vet dudes too, and it was just Brandon Knight.
Yeah.
And it was just a wild time that they actually had like some fun moments. We got attached for a week or so and then we never saw them again.
Funny moments from the year that I remember. Dorian Finney-Smith telling us that Luka steals all of his slang. And like, that was an incredible moment at Media Day.
The reason behind the Bang Bros.
You know, Bang Bros. Trying to keep it. The Bang Bros.
We got that nickname this past year. And then the Luka moment where the reporter asks him if he's been paying attention to any of the Elon Musk changes on Twitter. And he goes, I just play chess on my phone. That's like a really underrated, hilarious moment from the Mavericks this year. Weird things. There's a bunch of weird things that happened this year. I got a whole list of them. The Leadership Council was not in 2022, but Kidd took a vote on the Leadership Council voting Brunson to take Kristaps Porzingis' seat after he was traded. So that was like another moment that happened.
God bless. So weird.
Spencer Dinwiddie and Tony Brothers feud that happened recently where he called him Tony Brothers called him an MFer and like all that stuff. And he's like, I want my fine rescinded and all that. There was the moment where the AAC's roof was leaking and we literally had a rain delay inside. That was a really weird moment that happened in 2022. There was also a Sixers game in the season before this one where Luka comes out to warm up and he starts shooting and he notices the rim is tilted and he calls out that the rim is tilted. It ended up being a 44-minute delay on the game because they couldn't fix the rim because it was so tilted. That was a really weird moment. The NBA created the Theo Pinson rule for bench decorum and all that for the bench to have to sit down. That may make my top 10 because that was all about the playoffs and all that. Here's one of the weirdest ones. Do you remember the Mark Cuban Lil Wayne feud? Do you remember that? Like,
how do you remember that?
Do you remember that on Twitter, like in the playoffs?
Yeah.
That was a crazy, weird moment. They were like feuding on Twitter back and forth. Another weird moment, Dirk statue pre-removal of the beads.
I was going to say the evolution from 3 balls to 1 ball is a moment.
That was good. Another weird moment that we'll just carry with us forever, or at least until he's not on the roster.
People forget about Frank.
That moment where Nico says that. That's his line for the beginning of the season. Oh my gosh. There you go. Let us know in the comment section below. What should have made the top 10? What should I have had higher? Let me know in the comment section below. What are some moments that people forget about 2022? An incredible year. We'll do some resolutions coming up in the next couple of days. We'll have a post game after the Rockets game and the Celtics game this week as well, and the Pelicans. So make sure you subscribe. Thank you to everybody that subscribed this year. We added 11,000 subscribers on YouTube this year in 2022. We did 4 million YouTube views in 2022. Which is insane. Thanks to all of you guys, the Raccoon Squad, and everybody. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom! home.